fantastic. Um, Such a good film. I always forget how amazing it is. Um, just unmuting all the panelists. If help me with that. For some reason, I can't unmute Vanessa. So a special thank you to Vanessa and Carlo, as Georgie already said. Fantastic work on that. Carlo directed it, Vanessa produced it. Carlo of Descent Projects has made a bunch of amazing films for different causes. So we are very lucky that they volunteered to make this for us. And as mentioned as well, we've got Denise with us. So we've got a couple of questions that have come in advance. So we're going to start with those. But everyone watching, if you have any questions on the film, or the making of the film, or any medical questions, we've got Denise for that as well. Denise will be giving us a bit of an update on what's been happening first since the film was made, because the film was made a couple of years ago. So we've been going onwards and upwards, and so she'll be filling in on us a little bit on what has been happening since the film was made and what's going on in the current situation over there. And then we will go to Vanessa with some questions. But first, Denise, it probably makes sense if you give us a little bit of an update on where we are since the film was made.
Certainly. I like speaking about the hospital very, very much. It is a wonderful hospital and wonderful work goes on there. As you can see from the film, which is excellent, it shows the work very well of the hospital from day-to-day activities. Now, a lot has happened since the film was made, which was kindly done by Vanessa and Carlo. I think it's more than 2 years old. I think it's probably about 5 or 6. But anyway, I'm just going to go through the different areas so you know how things have developed. Taking East Jerusalem, our main hospital, which is in Sheikh Jarrah, this is going very strongly, and we now have a new day case surgical unit, which is next to the main operating theatres. When I was last out there, I went to see one of the surgeons operate, and he did 12 cataracts in a morning, which is amazing, excellently done, and very good results. And we have a new laser in the hospital. Moving on to the Muristan, which is the hospital on the original Crusader site, and it's very near the Holy Sepulchre. There is a clinic there, and patients or people that have eye problems in the old city can go in there. Above the clinic, there is a museum, and this is developing very well. And above that, on the roof, if you stand on the roof, you have to do this if you go out there. It's a wonderful view of the Temple Mount area. And to the side, there is a cafe area. We haven't got a permit for this to function yet, but it won't be long. So that is the Muristan. Now going on to Hebron, which is in South Palestine, the hospital is new and it's very good indeed and very active. It is actually—
Can I just interrupt to just say that it was very kindly funded by Priory of Scotland and the Knights Templar, and we've got loads of those representatives here today, so big thank you to them. Carry on, Denise, sorry.
I'll tell you how well it's doing then. And it's in a very good position because it's now in the center of Hebron and the patients can get there very easily. There is also an operating theater, and this is functioning very well indeed. Going up to Anabta, which is in North Palestine, it's between Jenin and Nablus. That doesn't do surgery, but it's very, very busy because there are many diabetics in this area, and a lot of them have the retina being involved. It's called diabetic retinopathy, and they need laser. So they will be referred down to East Jerusalem to have the laser. Now, going to Gaza, you saw the hospital being built. This has now been opened. It's a beautiful hospital, and it is actually very, very active, and it's got 2 operating theatres. I'll tell you later about the situation because of the virus, but because there are only 20 cases of the virus, COVID-19, in Gaza, the hospital has been able to function 70% of its usual rate, which is really very good. Now, outreach, unfortunately, outreach has not gone on so well during the lockdown. Everybody knows that we have to have outreach, a very important part of the hospital, because the patients find it very difficult to get to East Jerusalem. This is because of the wall. You saw a big photograph of this wall over 500 miles long, and the checkpoints. There are also roads, they're called settlers' roads, and there are curfews and many, many problems. So it is difficult. We used to have an outreach van going out every day of the week, but now it's really only about once a week. But soon, as the lockdown is easing off, although sometimes the Palestinians are anyway sealed off to some extent, it'll be functioning again. You saw it very well there. You saw the van being loaded up with the equipment, and they can take out the equipment within about 10 minutes to quarter of an hour and set it up. And I really enjoyed outreach. I've done it in many places. I was just going to tell you once, it was in a cafe, and the owner realized it was an eye clinic, and he was making carrot juice for everyone and thought this was great for their eyes. Anyway, I've done it in the back of a mosque, in refugee camps, in isolated villages, everywhere. And one particular place, like if you've been out to the West Bank, is Sebastia. It's actually a Christian village, and it's a Greco-Roman place. And before we started outreach, we'd have breakfast, so we could keep going for the day, because you'd see about 60 patients. And we'd have hummus often, cucumber and tomato, very nice, and pita bread. And what we do, and we used to have this in Sebastia on a Roman column, it's very interesting. So then we do it, and the patients, apart from seeing the patients, the nurses would actually teach the patients how to put drops in, and especially sort of saying that they must use drops in Ramadan, etc. And also the health, the diabetes, how they take their tablets or take their syringe. So it's very, very good. Then the patient, you could do minor procedures there, like if it was a blocked tear duct, you could wash out the tear ducts, or you could do cyst of the lids. But major surgery would be referred either to Hebron, if you're in that area, or down to East Jerusalem. Going back, I'm just going to tell you a little about the situation that's been going on with the COVID-19 virus. Luckily, in the occupied territories, which includes East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza, there were only this is recorded on the 19th of May, there were 567 cases. Just over 300 in the West Bank, about over 100 in East Jerusalem, but only 20 in Gaza. This is amazing, because if there had been many cases like in some other countries, and especially if they'd gone into a refugee camp, it would have been disastrous. So I think, as the Palestinians say, Kullu min Allah, everything is from God, and Alhamdulillah, as the patient that had cataract surgery was saying. So that is very lucky. Now, I think actually I've probably been talking a little bit too much, and I think, George, you might like to ask Vanessa or Carlo to say a few things.
Well, I would actually like to jump in and ask Vanessa about her involvement with St. John, how she got involved with St. John, and what was the experience that led her to making this film for us.
Well, I must keep my answer short, because there's so many more things to be shared and communicated, most particularly, in my view, Diane, from Carlo, because he went out there. I was supposed to go with Carlo and our cameraman and our sound, which was actually my grandson, Carlo's son, Raphael. But I can't remember, I got ill or something anyway, prevented me from going. So I didn't go. I've been close to Afif Safia and Crystal Safia for many, many years. And also to Edward Said before he died, and of course, and with his widow, Mariam Said. So, and her brother and many others, mainly in Lebanon. So I've got a lot of history, which I won't go into now, if you'll forgive me. And so how we came to make the film, it was presented to us, and I think you have to ask Carlo because he remembers more clearly than I do. But we knew immediately, because we have this small film production company, which we're very proud of because we do some good work. And this film, Eyes of St. John, is part of that work. And this year, we had hoped to fund an extra mobile van for the outreach. This was before lockdown. And so we donated quite a few thousands from our very small company and our very small purses, but in relative terms, quite a lot of thousands towards there being another mobile outreach van. It wasn't quite enough, as I understand, to cover the costs of one whole extra van, but we knew how urgent it was. So that's always in my mind. What's coming up? What are St. John trying to do? What's ahead? What are their goals? So I find it extremely both encouraging, but also inspiring to be, and by inspire, I don't mean it as one of these nice words. I mean like a push to get on and help with very important practical things. So the film has helped people know what's involved, I know. And Denise, of course, also.
We've had such positive feedback from the film. And I'd love to hear in the chat if anyone has any questions for Vanessa. In the meantime, I'll move over.
Carlo.
Yes, I want to ask Carlo about his experiences.
Now, it's his answer to your question. Yes. I didn't give the answer.
No problem. We'd love to hear from you, Carlo, how you got involved with St. John. How was it? We know your company, Descent Projects, is very used to filming difficult situations. So how was it filming in occupied territories?
The experience we had filming was really remarkable, and in many ways, in that in some ways it was we had the sort of assistance, the sort of help that a filmmaker can only dream of, because of the incredible work that St. John does and the trust that it creates amongst local people, the communities in the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, but also amongst the Israelis, as we saw in the film, amongst Israeli communities via its relationship with Hadassah. So in many ways, we had the way paved for us, despite the wall, despite the checkpoints, despite the permits one needs, of course, and you know very well about that, Diana, that are required for filming. But the assistance we received was really second to none. And that really is testament to St. John, to the impact St. John has, as I said, the trust that it creates amongst all communities, and the way that it builds these bridges. And that's what was really remarkable to me in terms of the experience, was these extraordinary bridges that are built, and somehow things get done. They get done in ways that other organizations can't. So I would say, you know, the way we were welcomed in the West Bank and in all the territories was just extraordinary. Just the warmth, people preparing food for us, and just making us feel part of the family, a very large family, because St. John, as we all know, is like a very large family. And once you become involved with St. John, you sort of feel attached to it for life, I guess. So yes, I mean, I remember though Gaza was a little tricky, just so that it doesn't all seem like it was a bed of roses, because we had very, very limited time to film in Gaza. It's a very difficult place to do that, to film, in terms of getting permits and going through checkpoints. We had to go through obviously 3 checkpoints, the Israeli one to get through into that sort of no man's land that separates Israel and Gaza itself, there's a sort of no man's land that's obviously very, very fiercely guarded, and then going through the checkpoints, through the Palestinian Authority checkpoint and the Hamas checkpoint, and those are a little bit tricky. More actually on the returning from Gaza, because things got a little bit trickier. But thankfully, we had lovely Paul Williams, who at the time was helping at St. John in Jerusalem with Brigadier Tom Ogilvy Graham, the former CEO, and he just really sort of wove an extraordinary spell over everyone there, and somehow got us out in time so that we weren't sort of stranded in Gaza and in no man's land. But as I said, just the extraordinary assistance we received from everyone, from all involved, St. John, but also the local people. Just, I mean, these are memories I will never, ever forget.
Isla, who actually featured on the film, she was the director of funding at the London office at the time, and I worked for her at the time. She's asking what your lasting memory is of filming and in your time in Palestine. I know you just said you had lots, but what was the one takeaway?
Well, yes, I mean, I touched on it, but I think the tears of people, the gratitude of people, seeing, particularly the mobile outreach units, I have to say, going out on mobile outreach units, which actually I did before the filming, because if you remember, I came out months before to do a recce prior to going out for the filming itself. And I just remember literally people, tears in their eyes, grown-ups, tears in their eyes. They couldn't believe that people actually care, that they actually care about these people. They think they feel forgotten. They feel like no one cares. They're just isolated. They're left to their own devices with very few resources. And just seeing that there is care, that someone actually cares, that there's some love out there, that people would actually want to treat them regardless of their ability to pay, which of course they don't have any ability to pay. That is one of the most enduring images for me, is tears in people's eyes, you know, adults and children. You know, disbelief that there's such an organization like St. John to care for their eyesight, which does, of course, you know, save not just their eyesight, but saves their lives as well.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I think this question will go, the next one, will possibly be going towards Denise and maybe Georgie. You mentioned that St. John has a presence worldwide. Are these also eye clinics and hospitals, or are they something else? Denise, do you want to talk a little bit about the structure of St. John worldwide?
Yes, there is a prior.
In summary, because it's super complicated, isn't it?
Well, I must say there's no eye hospital anywhere. I think in Kenya they were talking about, in Nairobi, possibly setting one up, but they haven't done it yet. And in fact, I think in some of this, the Order of St. John, it's more that the ambulance is functioning, but they support our eye hospital extremely. And the Americans, I knew Joe Walsh, and he used to come, he was an ophthalmologist in New York. He used to come over and bring lots of equipment, and a young anaesthetist also came over. But on the whole, they all help with giving money, which we badly need. But apart from that, our eye hospital is really the only one.
And the rest of the structure worldwide is other health services, such as ambulances, hospices, and so forth, right? First aid training.
Yes, that's right. And we have someone on our guild, a member. She works for the, she's a doctor, and gave us a first aid demonstration recently, which we had a guild event, which was very, very successful. And we can now recover very many people, which I hopefully, I think I can do, and where lots of other people now. And she helps the ambulance in London or elsewhere.
Thanks for that. Carlo, we've got a question for you. What was it like filming the eye procedures? Were there difficulties in that?
Well, I guess that's one of the other, speaking of enduring memories of the experience, was just seeing, as you saw in the film, how the intricacy of the eye operations, and yet in some ways, you know, you see them do this, and this is so delicate, so intricate, and yet they just do it. They do it, and then they're on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. But I guess what we were trying to do was, I know the term squeamish was used, you know, by Georgie at the beginning. Be careful, because there are some images, quite graphic images, and I just wanted to say that we felt that I'm not for graphic images in general as a filmmaker. I don't really like it. I'm more sort of power of suggestion. But I think in this instance, I felt that it really was important to see just how intricate that work is in those operating theatres. You know, I mean, I'm just watching again how the artificial lens being placed in. I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, miraculous almost. So yes, we had to obviously work very carefully, because, you know, wait a second, they're working here, they're saving people's lives. We're just there as a film camera crew, and that life that they're changing is the priority, not us, you know, filming. So obviously, being very respectful of the work involved, and going only as close as we could, and then we had to obviously take some of the imagery from the camera that they have literally in the operating theatre. That's an extreme close-up, of course, a detailed shot of the retina. So we had to take those and edit them into the imagery that we actually filmed as well, because obviously we couldn't stick a camera right over. That would, you know, that would have been impossible in terms of the interference involved with the surgery.
I was there with you. I was lucky to be there with you, Carlo, when we were filming all of these scenes, and I can attest that it was very moving, and we were all just amazed and impressed by the services being offered and the professionalism. It goes without saying, but it's worth saying. And again, it wasn't gratuitous, the graphic images of that surgery. It was to show how amazing doing this kind of detailed work in such a small space. And as Denise said earlier, to do 12 in one morning, that's 12 people's sight. That's 12 grandparents that can see their grandkids and help with childcare so the kids could go to work. And it's just life-changing, isn't it? And especially with the cataract operations, I think it's something we take for granted very much in this country, because cataracts are taken care of so quickly. So they never get to, for most people in this country, they never get to be a severe problem that affects people's lives so dramatically. Whereas in Palestine, they do get, you know, there's a lack of access and so forth. So the cataracts do get quite bad before they're treated. So it was amazing to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just riveting stuff.
I've got some questions coming in for Denise. Quite a few people want to know what's happening with COVID-19, how that's affecting the hospital specifically. So I don't know if you've got an update for that. We are trying to get secure a date for a Zoom conference in the near future with Ahmed Mali, who was in the video, but when he was in the video, he was director of nursing, and he's now the CEO, first Palestinian CEO, isn't he? So we're super proud of him. So Denise, you've been in touch with him recently, haven't you? Has he given you any kind of update on the situation these days?
Yes, he has. Ahmed Mali was trained as a nurse in the hospital quite a few years ago now. And
he joined us in 1990.
Oh, sorry. And he comes from Jenin, where his family is. Anyway, he did so well in the hospital that he became the nursing director, which it shows in the film. But since then, he is now the CEO, and he is doing it extremely well. So that's that. And he gave this, well, he sent me his report the other day, and I was telling you the number of cases there are of the Palestinians having the virus. But luckily, none of the hospital staff have it. This applies to all the hospitals and clinics. There are 6 cases in another hospital in East Jerusalem, but not in ours. So that is excellent. I just wanted to say something about the cataract surgery that Carlo was talking about. It's very intricate, and actually it's quite a difficult operation, although it can be done if you're well trained, etc., in a very short time. And we have these young doctors that are with us for 4 years, and they come knowing no ophthalmology at all. And at the end of the 4 years, they know a lot, and they're usually trained well in surgical procedures. What you did see, which was really nice, is the Hadassah Hospital. So at the end of the 4 years, often one of the young doctors will go over to Hadassah to have further specialist training. And recently, one of them was trained in genetics. So now he's returned and he's a geneticist, which is really very important because in a lot of these cases of cataract, babies can be born with cataracts. It's often due to consanguinity as such, and first cousins marry first cousins. So that it's quite important to try to explain about possibly not necessarily doing that, but other than that, what can happen. So he's very good. And other people have been trained in many other things. And the Israelis, they like coming to our hospital because I think we have a terrific amount of eye pathology, but they have the academics, or we do too, but they are very good. And Yakub Per, who you saw there, he's the head of the unit, and he really enjoys having a Palestinian to train, etc. So it really works very well indeed. And to say more about the training, sorry, but the nurses, there's a nurse, you saw that as well, the training school for the nurses that's run by Nasrallah, and they have a year there, and it's recognized by the Thames University over here, so they could always come over and work here if it was possible. So I hope that's answered some of those questions.
You mentioned about the education side in terms of the patients. The mobile outreach is very good at holding workshops at the same time in the places they go on things like diabetic health, because diabetes affects eye care, and as you mentioned, cultural issues that affect eye problems, and general first aid and eye first aid. So they're really good about spreading the word about that as well while they're treating people in these remote communities, aren't they?
That's right. And of course, if a person needs to come to the hospital, if he's had trauma, that you see a lot of trauma, they take him in the outreach van and they come back with us to the main hospital.
They help any patients with any kind of permit issues if they need to have further treatment at one of the clinics and the hospitals. The mobile outreach staff will help them with those permits and so forth. So it's an amazing resource. We've got some questions about the transition to Palestinian staff, because I understand that in the past it was very much expats, such as yourself, Denise. And now we've got largely Palestinian staff in the senior medical roles and most of the medical roles, don't we?
Yes, we do. When I went out there, quite a few senior registrars, that's the sort of grade before the consultant, would go out to the hospital, often from Moorfields. And I went out on a scholarship for a year. And I so enjoyed it that, that's why I was out there for nearly 10 years, you see. But the thing is, we trained these, as we were saying, that we've trained many Palestinian doctors now, and they are extremely good. So we like doctors to go out just to do a little bit of training, maybe in the retina or something that will help them. But on the whole, the doctors are trained in many specialities. There was a general ophthalmology when I was young, shall we say, but now they're super specialized. You'll find a doctor in the what's called the anterior segment. So there'll be one for cataracts, one for the cornea, one for glaucoma, one for the corneal grafts, etc., one for the diabetes. So you have to have a wide range. And we've got all those in Palestine, in the hospital. So they're extremely good. And when I was there, we actually had a doctor from America, from Canada, from Australia. It was like an international team, which was actually really very interesting. But nowadays, unless they like to teach maybe for 2 weeks, it's not so necessary. That's the reasoning. Although they did a wonderful job when they came.
Thank you so much. And it's really interesting that you touched on the links with other UK hospitals, eye hospitals, and other institutions in the UK. As you mentioned, the School of Nursing, which trains nurses, gives them a 1-year course to become specialists in ophthalmic nursing, and that's accredited by Thames Valley University, as you said. And we still have very strong links, don't we, with Moorfields, Western Eye Hospital, people regularly coming out to observe, but also to train and to learn themselves, right? It's a two-way street, isn't it?
Well, our hospitaller, David Verity,
Who's here today? Hello, David.
Oh, hello,
David, hello. Hello, hello.
Well, he's an ocular plastic eye surgeon in Moorfields, and so he actually went out there as a student. Then he started doing eyes, and then he's ended up, you know, at Moorfields, and he looks after the hospitals.
Fantastic. Right, we've got some amazing comments. I just want to say to all of you, to the panelists, that we've got some lovely pledges for support from different groups in St. John and in Mark Mason's. So, you know, you've done an amazing job in rallying the troops and so forth. And we really hope that everyone watching today has found it interesting. I would like to ask Georgie to finish with a little word about the Guild, and then maybe we'll take some final thoughts from the panelists. I'm sorry, we've had loads of questions and we haven't got around to all of them. I've tried to address everyone, all the different themes, so hopefully we've touched on them. If you've got any questions, follow-up questions, please do email guild@stjohnihospital.org. And if you want to talk about any kind of collaboration or donations, then please also follow us there. I've posted the email in the chat box, so if you need to copy it and paste it, you can find it there. So Georgie, would love to pass over to you. Georgie is, as she said, the chair of the Guild, and the Guild have been going for almost 100 years, supporting the work of St. John. So over to you.
Thank you, Deanna, and thank you to everyone. And I just want to continue what Vanessa was saying about the mobile outreach, which is particularly close to the Guild hearts, and Denise McGowan was very involved with that. It's something that the Guild was supporting through 2019 and is continuing in 2020. It's an absolutely vital service, and it would be great to see that back on the road regularly and funding these other vans that have had to be decommissioned. So I just want to reinforce what Vanessa said, and we saw in the film how fantastic that option is, working in very difficult situation in terms of access. So thank you all for supporting the Guild. Very gentle ask to keep supporting the outreach. You can see how vital those services are. And thank you to everybody for joining today. Thank you to our panelists, Vanessa, Carlo and Denise. And thank you for supporting the first online event, which was beautifully crafted and chaired by Deanna. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Right, so Vanessa, Carlo, Denise, if you've got any concluding remarks, final thoughts, we'd love to hear from you while I continue posting our donation link, hint, hint, in the chat box. So if you have found this interesting, then please do consider making a donation. We'd really appreciate it. And I've also included our mailing list. So if you want to sign up to find out about our future events, like I said, we hope to have Ahmed Mali, CEO, come and do one. And we've got some very exciting things in the pipeline. So Vanessa, I'll pass over to you for your final thoughts.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Diana, because you've done a fantastic job. I am completely bewildered by the Zooms and the webinars and all the countless phone numbers and so on. And I think you've crafted some, and I've got a few ideas which I'm not going to speak about because it would be wonderful.
We'll talk later. Well, you learned very fast, Vanessa, so thank you so much.
I also want to say that I feel I didn't explain myself properly, and I want to say you look beautiful. For some reason, the webinar sort of has produced a slightly Chinese look at the beginning. And I said that, and I thought, oh my God, you've got to explain what you mean. But because it can't have sounded like a compliment.
To explain to everyone that wasn't there at the time. I was out of sync and looking a bit like a kung fu film, wasn't I, with the translation on top?
Yes, but you've done such a great job.
Oh, it's Georgie and the Guild. It's Georgie and the Guild.
Carlo, you want to say something?
Well, thank you, Vanessa. And Carlo, we'd love to hear your concluding thoughts.
Well, just conclusion, mine is just I hope to be involved, to continue to be involved with St. John, for many years to come, and maybe one day we'll make another film. I don't know. It'd be lovely to do that. It would just be great privilege.
Not a sequel, no.
No.
I would have loved to hear, and I think there might be, what measures were taken to prevent COVID-19 getting hold of the disease, getting hold of the staff in St. John's, because we didn't hear about that. And I think it could be that something in that line would be where we could be helpful.
Well, Denise, that sounds like a good final comment for you to address.
Right. Well, first of all, I'd just like to thank Vanessa and Carlo, because if they hadn't have made that film, we wouldn't have even been having this webinar, you see. So it was really very, very good. And actually, you've been amazing, Diana, and you've organised it all so well. It's terrific. And Georgie, who's our chairman of the Guild, is doing a wonderful job. But I'd just like to say about the COVID, it's difficult to explain that, but I think it's because of the lockdown situation that partly, and also maybe the weather in the heat. I don't think the virus likes hot weather, and it's usually very good climate out there. And it's difficult to explain that, because even when we listen to every day here about the virus, they don't understand it and how it spreads or how. But anyway, luckily it didn't. So, but maybe Ahmed, when he comes when he's coming soon, he can explain that. And actually, I would just like to say to thank all the staff in the hospitals and the clinics for what they do. Even getting to the hospital is very tricky. They have to get up very early in the morning and go through goodness knows how many checkpoints to there. And they're doing a wonderful job. And hopefully the hospital will continue forever, shall we say.
All right, Doris, I just proceed.
Well, they've been going for a long time, so they're definitely very good at overcoming obstacles. I would like to do a quick thank you to the Balfour Project. We've got some of the representatives here. Sir Vincent Fien, who used to be a St. John trustee and former Consul General to Jerusalem. And they very kindly let us host the event on their Zoom. So not sure if that's technically allowed, but it happened. And so we're very grateful to be able to hold this event in this way with all of you here. And Denise, thank you so much for your medical knowledge and your knowledge of St. John in Jerusalem. And Vanessa and Carlo. We had a little saying when I was working in the office of St. John, you're St. John for life. It's very hard to extract yourself from the organization. So you're one of us now, and we're very happy to have you on board. And we're really grateful that you made the film in the first place, and that even all these years later, you have agreed to do this event with us. And I will share all the comments with you. I should have said that to all you attendees, that the panelists are not looking at the comments because it can be quite overwhelming. So I'm relaying the information, and I will share all of your lovely comments with them after the fact. But you've had so many comments about people finding the film so interesting, and so grateful for your involvement. Same with the Guild ladies. I would like to say thank you to the Guild, because this is a team of volunteers. And this volunteer week this week, by the way, so happy volunteer week, for doing such amazing events for almost a century to fundraise for St. John, which is such a worthwhile organization, which has brought all these wonderful people together as well. So I just want to say thank you once again, and please do sign up to the mailing list. I've put the link in the chat. Please email us, guild@stjohnihospital.org, if you want to get involved with us or want to find out about upcoming events. And we really hope to see you all at a future event. And we're really grateful that you came along today. So
thank you, Diana. Thank
you,
Georgie and
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. Cameo from Jolie. Bye.
Bye.